In the shadow, an egg moves, something pushes, scratches, and looks for light inside. It's not a monster yet. It's not an attraction yet. It's not even a threat that can be seen yet. But in Jurassic World, it all starts with a common error, thinking that a life made in a lab will obediently embrace the function assigned to it. The shell fractures. A little claw emerges. Next, an eye. The movie also serves as a reminder that this world is not based on magic, even before it depicts the crowds, stores, lines, and smiles of the tourists. It is based on an extremely costly, well-planned, and spectacular deception. Dinosaurs were marketed as a family fantasy, and those who converted this fantasy into a product will be consumed by it, more than 2 decades after the cultural shock of Jurassic Park. Colin Trevorrow's 2015 film Jurassic World was released. An almost sacrosanct topic was raised in Steven Spielberg's debut movie. What happens when people revive the past without realizing the consequences of their actions? In contrast, Jurassic World does more than simply reiterate this query. He forces it into a more impatient, colder, and commercial period. The miracle is already here. Dinosaurs are no longer a myth, a scientific mystery, or an unattainable fantasy. They have developed into an industry. The park opens. The visitors are arriving in front of animals that vanished millions of years ago. The kids eat ice cream. And it is precisely in this horrific divide between the extraordinary and the commonplace that the movie finds its potency, because the Indominus Rex is not the only real monster in Jurassic World. Human ennui in the face of the marvel is the true demon. The movie opens in a more private setting, far from the island. Zach and Gray Mitchell, 2 brothers, are preparing to travel to Jurassic World. The younger one, Gray, is giddy with anticipation. This vacation seems like a huge promise to him. He's familiar with dinosaurs, has an eye for detail, and already possesses the nearly unadulterated fascination that the first Jurassic Park inspired in a whole generation of viewers. No one has to persuade Gray to pursue his goal. He already has faith in it. Zach, however, is in a different era. He's a teenager who is aloof, preoccupied with females, his phone, and that combination of irony and exhaustion that one occasionally employs to conceal the fact that they no longer want to be impressed. Zach's eyes are already elsewhere, while Gray's are wide open to the world. One of the main themes of the movie is hinted at by this straightforward, almost familial rivalry between the 2 brothers. Even in the face of impossibility, some people continue to strive for something more powerful, innovative, and intense. At first, their mother goes with them. It is immediately apparent that the family is experiencing a silent fragility. There are conflicts, suppressed feelings, and a divorce that weighs heavily but isn't instantly shown as a significant drama. In addition to leaving their unstable home, the kids are traveling to a park full of enormous animals. Because Jurassic World is about more than simply dinosaurs, that particular aspect is important. It also discusses an adult world that pretends to be in control but actually loses control. Zach and Gray are entrusted to their Aunt Claire Deering, who works on the island, by their parents. Claire is more than simply an employee. She plays a crucial role in the park's operations, and from the moment we first see her, the movie portrays her as swift, efficient, flawless, and totally focused on the machine she works for. She doesn't see the dinosaurs the way Gray does. They are assets, metrics, visitor flows, satisfaction curves, and brand components in her eyes. Claire isn't unkind. It's more fascinating than that. She now serves as the human face of a system that has evolved to view life as a commodity. Additionally, Bryce Dallas Howard plays this opening with a controlled coldness that is almost brutal on the inside. Claire is not a monster. She's a person who unknowingly acclimated to a horrible environment. We get to the core of the park's reasoning with her first significant professional assignment. The leaders aim to win over sponsors. Despite the large number of visitors, it is no longer sufficient. If we can use that term in a genetic park, natural dinosaurs no longer provide the same surge of excitement. The general people is growing accustomed to it. The general public makes comparisons. The audience wants everything to be bigger, scarier, and more spectacular. Thus, a new attraction was created by the scientists. Not found, not shielded. Produced. The commercial response to the audience's weariness is the Indominus Rex. It sounds like an aggressive promise only by its name. Indominus, the intractable, uncontrollable. However, the irony is evident right away. The park pretends to be able to govern a species that is uncontrollable by using walls, sensors, processes, and computations. At that point, Jurassic World transcends its role as an adventure film. The script creates an explosive contradiction. The park needs to develop something that goes beyond the norm in order to draw the crowds. However, the park ceases to be a park if it truly crosses the boundaries. Admission tickets are a bomb. Dr. Henry Wu is still in the labs. This figure from Jurassic Park is reprised by B.D. Wong, and his presence adds an unsettling consistency to the movie. Wu is no longer only one of the scientists responsible for a genetic achievement. He now refers to creativity as market engineering. He believed that the dinosaurs in the park were assemblages, reconstructions, and altered versions created to satisfy human expectations rather than actual old beasts. This concept is crucial. Jurassic World compels us to adopt a new perspective on the park. The creatures are not a pristine reincarnation of the past from the start. These are scientific outputs that have been influenced by contemporary decisions, and this reasoning breaks down with the Indominus. We are no longer attempting to bring a species back to life. Our goal is to make an impression. Owen Grady has a totally different relationship with the animals on the island, while Claire navigates the spotless corridors of authority. He's portrayed by Chris Pratt as a more physical, instinctual man who is less impressed by management's platitudes. Owen works with velociraptors, and the film presents an intriguing tension from the very beginning. Is it possible to build a relationship with predators without losing sight of who they are? Owen responds with caution. He does not assert that raptors have been tamed like dogs. He is aware of the hierarchy, respect, and genuine, but constrained communication. He is adept at interpreting their gestures, expressions, and responses. He doesn't idealize them, nor does he turn them into murderous machines. He believes that intelligence is not diminished by risk. Furthermore, danger is never eliminated by intelligence, because it distinguishes Owen from the rest of the system. This subtlety is significant. The park's goal is to make dinosaurs dependable attractions. Some, like Vincent D'Onofrio's character Hoskins, even wish to go so far as to employ the raptors as weaponry. He believed that an animal could be used as a weapon if it could obey commands, and this is among the movie's harshest themes. Some wish to use the living as a military tactic, turning the miraculous into entertainment. Hoskins doesn't seem like a crazy person in the dark. He poses a greater threat than that. He speaks with the conviction that he is a pragmatic man. He sees tactical possibilities in the raptors. Hoskins sees biological technology, while Gray would see an intriguing creature and Owen would see a worthy but deadly animal. One of the film's hidden forces is this disparity in viewpoint. Each character's perspective on the dinosaurs tells something about them. Zack and Gray eventually reach Isla Nublar, while the adults talk about control, profit, security, and exploitation. After that, the movie takes its time to fully submerge us in Jurassic World, making it seem like a dream come true. The ferry is getting closer. The park's gates open. A collective memory is instantly awakened by the music, which is a legacy of the world created by John Williams and carried on here by Michael Giacchino. This is more than simply an arrival for viewers who are familiar with Jurassic Park. Reactivation is what it is. We return to the island, where we learn to look up from movies. However, everything is different this time. The park is no longer an unfulfilled promise. It functions. He takes a breath. He is a cellar. Thousands of people visit it. Hotels, eateries, enormous screens, stores, wristbands, monorails, well-organized lineups, and calibrated attractions are all present. This image, in which John Hammond's horror has been turned into a holiday spot, contributes to the film's grandeur. Gray is in awe, and the audience knows why. A very potent aspect of childhood is awakened when one sees dinosaurs in a contemporary park, while believing that everything is safe. This infatuation is not mocked in the movie. It takes care of it. He allows us to experience the breathtaking scenery, the enormity of the animals, and the dizziness of the unthinkable. Jurassic World is aware that the audience came to witness dinosaurs once more, experience a scale greater than human, and rediscover wonder. However, the movie is already hinting at something more. The park becomes more delicate the more ideal it seems. Every obstacle turns into a promise that can be fulfilled. Every control screen turns into a control illusion. If the algorithm makes a mistake, every satisfied visitor becomes a potential victim in the future. And that's where the true tension starts, not in a direct assault, not with a scream. This unspoken assurance that all of this solace is based on the ridiculous notion that a world full of primordial predators can be run like a mall. For her part, Claire doesn't fully embrace her nephews. She's too preoccupied with her work. She gives Zach and Gray to Zara, her assistant. At first glance, this decision appears insignificant, even humorous, yet it immediately emphasizes Claire's conflict with her family. She's skilled at managing a groundbreaking attraction, tracking park attendance, negotiating with funders, and organizing massive operations. However, she delegates when two kids are yearning for a human presence. It's more than a personal shortcoming. It reflects the park as a whole. Jurassic World is adept at managing large groups, but not close relationships. It can create great things, but it doesn't listen to fear. He's capable of creating a creature that is larger than the T-Rex, but he is no longer able to identify a boundary. And there's a word for that restriction: Indominus Rex. The mood shifts when Claire visits the new attraction's enclosure, in favor of a colder, more enclosed, and more disturbing setting. The movie foregoes the touristy sunshine. The creature is not immediately visible to you. The walls are what we see first. The traces, the safety precautions, the anxious workers. It appears that the entire construction is intended to hold something that nobody quite comprehends. It gets more terrifying when the Indominus is absent than when it is present. It's an ancient monster movie rule. The imagination is stimulated by what we haven't yet seen. However, there is a narrative significance to its omission as well. The creature that the park produced has abilities that it does not completely comprehend. Indominus is not merely large. She's bright, reclusive, erratic, and the product of a choice to win over a cynical public. Claire continues to talk with authority. She presents, explains, and offers guidance. However, given all she has contributed to the world, it is evident that her formal language is starting to wane. A safety inspection is what she wants. To find out what Owen thinks of the cage, she gives him a call, and the main struggle between two visions begins. With this small gesture, Claire is a system believer. Owen has faith in gut feelings. Claire has a methodical mindset. Owen uses animal behavior to explain his thoughts. The Indominus is a troublesome draw in Claire's opinion. Owen is aware that it must first be perceived as a predator. Owen does not find the speech impressive when he gets there. He watches, he asks. He recognizes the main issue right away: a creature that is raised in isolation, without socialization in a natural setting, and without contact with other creatures, runs the potential of being unpredictably violent. This is an important detail. It goes beyond simply stating that Indominus is deadly due to its size in Jurassic World. She was made without a world, which makes her deadly, without relatives, without any species, without a location. She's not a reincarnation of a dinosaur. She's a caged invention. Additionally, a failing idea can turn into a disaster. At that point, the movie starts to tighten its trap. The Indominus may have climbed or fled based on marks on the walls. She is no longer detected in the container by the sensors. The group becomes terrified. Claire goes to the control room to see where the animal is. Owen enters the interior area with two employees. At that point, The audience recognizes that something is amiss before certain characters do. The threat is not external, it's still within. The sequence works well because it uses the creature's intelligence as a plot device. The Indominus did not simply vanish. She tricked others who were observing her. She was aware that people respond to signals. She falsely claimed that the marks on the wall were proof. She pleaded with her goalkeepers to let the cage open. The park aimed to produce a more spectacular monster. He produced an animal that could control the system. Furthermore, it is too late when the truth is revealed. The container still contains the Indominus. The door is ajar. Inside are the men. Unlike Jurassic Park, the disaster in Jurassic World does not start with a storm or a spectacular breakdown. It starts with a more contemporary mistaken reading. People trusted their data, walls, processes, and presumptions. They neglected to show respect for the unknown. Ohran recognizes the threat right away. The escape turns violent, physical, and nearly archaic. The workers flee. The animal launches an assault. In a matter of seconds, the gap between the opulent park and the animal truth vanishes. As the Indominus gets closer, Owen hides beneath a car, covers himself to camouflage his scent, and holds his breath. The hero is not shown as unbeatable because he respects fear. He endures. Perhaps this is the movie's first important lesson. People who think they have complete control over the world are already lost. There is yet hope for those who know how to be terrified. The Indominus is no longer in use. The core of the park has recently cracked, yet Jurassic World still runs around it. The guests are ignorant. The kids are still giggling. The rides continue to operate. The image on the TVS is still flawless. Beneath the show, however, a creature created to boost profits has just crossed the boundary between predator and product. After that, the movie stops narrating. The tale of two kids going to a unique park. It depicts the slow disintegration of a delusion. The dinosaurs were sought after by everyone. It must now endure them. Jurassic World keeps grinning as the Indominus Rex exits its cage. It's one of the movie's best contrasts. The sophisticated, vicious hybrid creature on one side is already outside the frame that humanity had constructed around it. However, there are also families walking along spotless aisles, kids gazing up at the storefront windows, tourists snapping pictures, and employees calmly and almost automatically reciting their orders. The park is still unaware that it has turned into a trap, or rather, some people are already aware of it. However, they are still unwilling to acknowledge it. However, Zach and Gray continue to view the day as an adventure. Their visit should be ideal because their Aunt Claire granted them wristbands, special access, and organized freedom. Zara, Claire's assistant, goes with them, but it soon becomes apparent that this oversight is more formal than personal. Zara has duties, a phone, a professional distance, and other worries. There isn't much guidance for the two brothers. Like to tourists among many, they are thrown into the park's massive machine. And this machine is amazing. Jurassic World is more than just a dinosaur-filled island. It's an entire tourism empire. There are screens everywhere, eateries, stores, age-appropriate attractions, family areas, interactive experiences, and guided walks. The movie enjoys showcasing what John Hammond envisioned, but it does so with a modern coldness that Hammond may not have anticipated. Technically speaking, this park is more successful than Jurassic Park. People are drawn to it. It makes money. It functions. However, it is precisely this success that raises further concerns, because an abandoned park that doesn't work out is still a limited disaster. When a park fails, it becomes a widespread catastrophe. Gray is genuinely impressed by everything. The dinosaurs, the areas, and the concept of being there all captivate him. For him, every attraction is a manifestation of a fantasy. He does not yet regard borders as brittle boundaries. He views them as comforting frames that permit all. The film gains a crucial warmth from this innocence. Jurassic World would just be a critique of the spectacle without Gray. We now know why this show is popular, because of him. Yes, the park is hazardous. However, it is also amazing. Furthermore, This beauty exacerbates the gravity of human error. Zach, however, moves around this society at a teenage distance. Though he isn't truly available, he's there. He looks at the girls, pulls away from his younger brother, and occasionally reacts impatiently. He is not, however, reduced to a cliché in the movie. Zach is old enough to find amazement humiliating. He wants to look older than he actually is. Sometimes he refuses to embrace Gray's enthusiasm, because doing so would require him to spend a few hours as a youngster. Additionally, he doesn't always want to display that weakness in front of his brother. When danger looms, this fraternal dynamic will become crucial. Zach is being indifferent for the time being. However, Jurassic World will progressively remove this mask from him. He won't be able to hide behind his phone, his aloof manner, when the park turns into a survival zone instead of an attraction. He will have to decide whether to continue being the suffering adolescent or to take on the role of Gray's big brother. As a result, the movie simultaneously sets up to catastrophes. The Indominus is a visible and stunning huge calamity. The distance between family members is a smaller, more personal disaster. Claire is unsure of how to support her nephews. Zach is no longer able to show great tenderness. The parents are weakened by their distance from each other. The kids are ironically alone in the heart of this enormous park. It's a powerful concept. Although there are many people in Jurassic World, many of the individuals are alone. Indominus grew up by himself. Claire has been engrossed in her task. Owen doesn't live near the main park. Zach is pulling away from his sibling on an emotional level, though he is unsure of how to express it. Gray senses that his family is falling apart. These isolations are not presented as speeches in the movie. He moves them between the scenes, the looks, and the absences. And all these solitudes will clash as the threat grows. In the meantime, the response to the escape in the control zones exposes the park's actual character. How to evacuate everyone is not the first concern that arises when a deadly monster escapes from its containment. How to handle the situation without inciting widespread panic becomes the question. How can the damage be minimized? What can be done to keep the park's reputation intact? In the middle of this predicament is Claire. She still thinks like a manager, even though she is aware of the risk. She's searching for immediate, internal, and contained remedies. She wants to think that the Indominus can be neutralized by a specialized crew before the guests find out. In retrospect, this response looks ridiculous, yet it makes perfect sense given the logic of the system to preserve the impression of stability for as long as possible. Simon Masrani, the park's owner, complicates matters further. Masrani, as portrayed by Irfan Khan, is not entirely cynical. He has an almost utopian enthusiasm, a genuine interest, and a certain charisma. He desires a magnificent park. He wishes to pay tribute to Hammond's legacy. However, he also learns that inheriting a dream does not imply being aware of its risks. Masrani poses a straightforward query to Claire. Is Indominus content? In a security setting, this query may appear nearly simplistic, but it captures the essence of the issue. Nobody has truly considered this thing to be a live entity with experiences, frustrations, and worldviews. We considered its DNA, size, commercial potential, and degree of allure. However, it was too late in the discourse to discuss its inner existence, loneliness, and confinement-induced hostility. Then, Jurassic World turns into a subtle but scathing indictment of unethical innovation. The movie doesn't claim that making things is necessarily a bad thing. It asserts that producing without accountability, humility, or regard for what is produced opens a door that is difficult to shut. Owen recognizes right away that this is not a straightforward animal escape. He's aware that the Indominus has seen, discovered, and tricked. He has a gut feeling that this creature is more than just strong. She's a strategic person, and this intellect becomes frightening in a setting like Isla Nublar, which is teeming with greenery, technical areas, other animals, and thousands of tourists. Nevertheless, the park dispatches an armed squad with non-lethal weapons rather than paying close attention to Owen, This choice is illuminating. Instead of eliminating the issue, the managers wish to restore the attractiveness. The Indominus is a significant financial commitment. She's a valued product in addition to being a threat. Decisions cannot be entirely clear as long as this economic value is there in people's perceptions. As a result, the first capture squad enters the jungle with the shaky assurance of people who think they understand the rules. They have cars, equipment, and procedures. They believe they are up against a dangerous beast that can be located, comprehended, and neutralized. They are still unaware that they have come into contact with a creature that is already pushing their boundaries. The Indominus doesn't show up as a simple running predator right away. She leaves clues. Owen is shocked when she kills other creatures without consuming them. This conduct suggests that violence is a reaction to more than just hunger. She behaves as though she were a creature experiencing terror, learning to use her strength and striking beyond what is necessary. Everything is altered by this particular aspect. When a predator seeks for food, it follows a certain logic. A creature becomes far less predictable when it kills due to anger, confusion, or a warped impulse. Once more, the movie connects the monster's actions to how it was made. The Indominus was not raised in an environment. She failed to find her position. Natural bounds were unknown to her. She was confined, fed, observed, and kept apart. Walls, monitoring, and dissatisfaction were her first experiences with the outside world. Therefore, she finds more than just independence when she goes out. She finds a world that she can destroy, compared to a generic monster. This concept offers the Indominus a more intriguing presence. It is frightening because it represents a number of human flaws, including excessive reliance on technology, commercial avarice, scientific arrogance, and emotional indifference. She is the live outcome of a series of choices that each individual defended in their own unique manner. Zack and Gray continue their visit as this threat intensifies. They come upon the Mosasaurus, one of the park's most famous features. An enormous creature emerges from the water to capture a shark that is dangling above the pool in front of spectators who are seated like they are at an aquatic performance. The action is promoted as family entertainment, despite being stunning and nearly brutal. The audience cheers. The windows are splattered by the water. A display of primordial power is turned into a staged spectacle by the park, without any dialogue. This scene conveys a lot. Mosasaurs are enormous animals that may evoke a dread that is almost legendary. However, it becomes a fixed-time attraction inside the park. You are no longer staring at a perilous miracle. We're enjoying a show. And this change lies at the core of Jurassic World. People forget that the sublime might overflow the more they frame it. Naturally, Gray is captivated. Despite himself, Zack seemed to be a little more impacted. The park is beginning to emerge from his shell. However, the two brothers' relationship is still brittle. Gray follows Zack as he leaves, and the ideal day that the adults had promised is already manifesting as unmonitored freedom. Afterwards, they enter the transparent vehicles known as gyrospheres, which let guests travel among the herbivorous dinosaurs. From the park's point of view, it's a wonderful idea to provide controlled proximity with the animals, creating the illusion of joining their world without leaving the security of a bubble. The environment is soft, cheery, and even serene. For a brief time, Jurassic World reclaims the unadulterated amazement that has always accompanied the story as the massive herbivores traverse the grasslands. However, this bubble also serves as an ideal symbol because a translucent wall separates them from danger. The tourists feel safe. They don't touch anything, but they can see everything. Without actually being present, they are in nature. They believe they are experiencing the adventure, but in reality, they are experiencing a commercialized, filtered, and scripted version of it. Additionally, the bubble's transparency will be useless once the system that keeps this illusion intact starts to collapse. It will merely display the impending danger. One of the park's technicians, Lowry Crothers, offers a crucial counterpoint in the control room. He appears to be more aware of the island's historical significance than others, as evidenced by his Jurassic Park t-shirt and more thoughtful approach to its legacy. He is aware that this location holds memories. He is aware that the present dream is based on a disaster from the past, that many would rather turn into a sentimental symbol. Lowry is present for more than simply the reaction or the humor. He stands for a type of memory that the business finds difficult to respect. Through him, the movie serves as a reminder that Jurassic Park casts a shadow over Jurassic World. This new park wasn't created in a vacuum. It is constructed upon the remains of an early failure. Nevertheless, humanity began anew, larger, more costly, more structured, on the surface, safer, but maybe not more intelligent. This distinction between wisdom and safety is very important. The park features many teams, cutting-edge technology, control rooms, surveillance systems, and protocols. Compared to the original project, it is more secure. However, since knowledge is more than just closing doors more effectively, it is not always wiser. It entails understanding what ought not to be produced inside those doors. The movie more obviously transitions into the hunt when the team dispatched to combat the Indominus encounters it. The jungle turns into a dangerous place, unknowingly entering a situation created by the predator. The men are no longer park employees, but rather prey. The squad discovers too late that they are outmatched when the Indominus employs its strength, intelligence, and thermal camouflage. The assault is swift, fierce, and disorganized. Weapons that are not deadly become insignificant. Protocols are failing. Orders are replaced by screams, and the Indominus demonstrates that it is a force that learns from every encounter rather than an eluded attraction. This should be sufficient to initiate a complete evacuation. However, as a system, Jurassic World continues to reject reality. Decisions are delayed by fears of panic, financial loss, and public failure. Additionally, the calamity spreads more quickly the longer those in authority wait. In the Jurassic saga stories, this is frequently how catastrophes worsen not just because an animal strikes, but also because people put up with the apparent for too long. But Claire is beginning to change, slowly. She initially considers the situation to be an operational emergency. However, the professional facade breaks as soon as she recognizes that her nephews are at the park and may be close to a dangerous region. The threat ceases to be theoretical. He's got to face it. Zach, Grey Dot at that point. Claire begins to change in the movie. She is no longer limited to being the effective director. She needs to return to her role as an ant, a human being who prioritizes emotion above calculation. It is more plausible because the shift is not instantaneous. Claire doesn't quickly give up on her previous reasoning. She witnesses it break against reality. Owen goes with her, since he is more familiar with the area and the animal. There is clear personal friction in their connection. They are acquainted. There was some type of past between them, a failed date, a temperamental conflict. However, this dynamic is mostly used in the movie to contrast to survival strategies. Claire is a control person. Owen comes from being in close proximity to danger. She will need to leave the hallways, the screens, the spotless hills, and the distant choices in order to locate the kids. She needs to go into the bush. Zach and Grey, meanwhile, breach a boundary in their gyrosphere without realizing what it means. Visitors are required to return. The attraction is suspended, and the instructions are altered. However, the two brothers carry on because they are intrigued. Their clear bubble rolls in the direction of a more remote location. Naturally, this decision is risky, but it makes sense given their circumstances. They are young people living in a society that has convinced them that adventure is safe. They're not just disobeying for fun. They have faith in the park. And it's precisely this faith that endangers them. The gyrosphere has an eerie charm about it. Before the break, the movie lets the amazement breathe one final time as the planes open up and dinosaurs roam around them. Because danger frequently shows up in Jurassic World, just when you think the program can continue to be lovely, the indicators then shift. The animals are anxious. There's a problem. A presence that has no place there upsets the scene's natural equilibrium. The Indominus is on its way. Zach also starts to realize that this day will be more than just a visit, despite his desire to seem indifferent. Gray, who believed he was entering a fantasy, is forced to face the reality that brochures never convey. The clear bubble does not offer defense against the outside world. The creature is given a presentation. The surrounding environment has already lost its tranquility. Even though the gyrosphere is still in motion, Gray and Zach are not attacked right away. The movie first uses details to heighten the suspense. The herbivores run away. The motions start to get chaotic. The area that looked like a prehistoric postcard only a few moments ago now seemed to have been cleared out by something more potent. A shift in atmosphere would be a straightforward technological issue in a typical park. It's an animal caution here. The Indominus Rex then materializes. The scene is overpowered by its presence. She appears as a living contradiction in the middle of the landscape rather than as an attraction that can be seen from a distance. The safety, transparency, control, and consequence-free proximity that the gyrosphere promises all crumble in front of her. The barricade separating the kids from the outer world starts to seem absurd. It is no longer protective. It reveals Zach and Gray immediately realize what the adults have refused to acknowledge when confronted with the creature. The park is not merely in crisis, it is dishonest. He promoted the notion that all it took to make risk a family event was a barrier. However, same reasoning does not apply to the Indominus. It disregards the imperceptible limits of entertaining. She is unaware that she is expected to remain in a setting intended for guests. She launches an assault. The gyrosphere is hit, rocked, and toppled. The kids are imprisoned in a bubble that turns into a cage, because the most comforting aspect of the attraction becomes a trap. This reversal is harsh. They are unable to just flee despite seeing the brutality, the mass, the teeth, and the claws. The show has gotten too close. The picture has come to life. Zach is forced to break free from his detachment, which is another reason why the sequence succeeds. He could play the cynical adolescent up until this point. This role is no longer relevant in front of the Indominus. He needs to respond, shield Gray, and come up with a plan. In contrast, his younger brother experiences a shift from utter amazement to sheer horror. His innocence is not arbitrarily destroyed by the movie. It depicts the opposite of the dream he found admirable. As one loves an idea, Gray had a deep affection for dinosaurs. He now comes across them in the cruelty of the living by fleeing the shattered gyrosphere. The two brothers manage to survive. Their position in the narrative altered by their flight into the bush. They are no longer guests. They manage to survive. And this change is crucial to the Jurassic saga. The island's true nature becomes apparent as soon as people depart from the designated routes. Maps intended for tourists are no longer helpful. VIP bracelets are no longer functional. The attractions' names are now irrelevant. The only things left are instinct, fear, and the capacity to advance together. Claire and Owen follow the tracks in the interim. The extent of the threat is confirmed by the damage's discovery. The youngsters were in close proximity to the Indominus, as evidenced by the destroyed gyrosphere, the attack indications, and the quiet around the situation. This is an intimate shock for Claire. Numbers, internal communications, and crisis management are no longer safe havens for her. She no longer has to rely on someone else to take care of her nephews. They are lost in a park that she is aware of its shortcomings. Claire receives an evolution from Bryce Dallas Howard that significantly affects her body's stress. Her gaze shifts, but her appearance stays composed. The professional facade fractures more and more as she moves deeper into the jungle. Without any transition, the movie might have abruptly turned her into an action heroine. He would rather demonstrate to a woman that using a remote control does not equate to fortitude via suffering. Owen, however, avoids needless dramatization. He watches, makes assumptions, and proceeds. His serenity is not a sign of apathy. It is the experience of someone who understands that panicking in a predator's domain gives the threat an advantage. He's also aware that the Indominus does not behave in a straightforward manner. It is not an animal that attacks at random and then vanishes. She learns, tests, and makes a decision. This theory is supported by the finding of a ripped implant. The Indominus was aware that it was being monitored. The element that made it possible for the park to find her was taken from her own body. This behavior puts her in a far more alarming category. She's more than just powerful. She knows she's being watched. She locates and neutralizes the control gadget. This may be one of the most crucial facts to comprehend why people are so afraid of this creature. The majority of Jurassic World systems are predicated on the notion that technology makes up for unpredictability. Everything is meant to make the world readable, including sensors, cameras, implants, maps, radios, and automated doors. However, the Indominus renders the world unintelligible. It turns control tools into fraudulent security measures. She does not just break out from her captivity. She avoids thinking like a human. In contrast, Zack and Gray stay in the jungle. The strain starts to alter their relationship. A connection that family life could no longer foster is imposed by danger. Zack needs to pay attention to Gray, comfort him, and occasionally encourage him to go. Despite his anxiety, Gray contributes his expertise and meticulousness. The two brothers don't suddenly become flawless. They are still young, afraid, and defenseless. However, the crisis compels them to reunite as a team. They travel to the former Jurassic Park Visitor Center, a location rich in memories. This finding holds special meaning for viewers who are familiar with the original movie. It's more than just an abandoned set. It is the saga's holy ruin. The island had already forewarned mankind, as seen by the walls, dust, and remnants of the past. Prior to the opulent hotels and virtual attractions, a more innocent desire had previously been dashed by the same conceit. Like to kids lost in a forbidden museum, Zack and Gray walk into this room. The audience senses the place's memory, even though they do not fully comprehend it. The original failure that Jurassic World ignored is symbolized by the visitor center. The old park was not destroyed by the new one. Like a humiliating piece of evidence, he just allowed it to decay in a corner of the island. In terms of legacy, this moment is among the best in the movie. It goes beyond simple nostalgia. She physically demonstrates the persistence of the past. The remnants of the previous catastrophe are still visible beneath the new park's glossy exterior. Additionally, the movie creates a clear connection between two generations when the kids discover a way to fix an old car. The catastrophe of the past becomes a survival tool of the present. Zack then demonstrates a useful ability. He is skilled at reviving the antique vehicle. This particular feature is important because it provides him with a tangible means of survival. He is no longer just the teenager who is preoccupied. He develops into an actor. For his part, Gray observes, supports, and assists him. There is a rebalancing of the sibling dynamic. Although he isn't flawless, the big brother is present. And for Gray, that's sufficient to restore some trust right now. The main park starts to feel the initial vibrations of the crisis as the kids flee the old center. The bureaucrats are no longer able to sustain the delusion forever. The death toll is rising. The teams are overburdened. Information is being shared. Nevertheless, the group keeps looking for a way to escape the most straightforward reality. Evacuate. Acknowledge failure. And acknowledge that the park as a whole is in danger. The calamity is made more human by this rejection to the apparent. In many tales, a monster poses a threat. The monster does exist here, but it feeds on reluctance, competing interests, and administrative hold-ups. Because the system is still up for discussion, the Indominus advances. Masrani starts to feel the weight of what is slipping away from him, as he has a clearer knowledge of the circumstances. Because he isn't portrayed as a villain, his character is intriguing. He continues to believe in a kind of greatness, in Hammond's legacy, and in the notion of providing the world with something amazing. However, his shortcoming is that he did not thoroughly investigates what his business was doing in the name of this greatness. His faith in Dr. Wu starts to erode as he discovers that the Indominus has hidden genetic components, especially skills that had not been made clear. Wu, however, has a different perspective on the matter. He remembers that the park had clear demands to produce something more beautiful, remarkable, and profitable. He just reacted to the reasoning that was forced upon him. There is a hint of truth in this defense, which makes it unsettling. Wu is not the only one at fault. He's the clever person who carries out a shared desire. The park was looking for a creature that would increase attendance, draw sponsors, and rekindle public enthusiasm. Thus, the Indominus is more of a logical outcome than an aberration. She is precisely what the system requested, but she lacks the guts to consider the repercussions. Jurassic World is more savage than it first appears because of this concept. The movie is about a viewership that is dissatisfied with the amazing. He desires something fresh, larger, and more aggressive, and the business reacts. This industry is a dinosaur park in the world of film. However, the effect is more widespread when the show turns into a never-ending competition to surpass one another. Someone always ends up producing something they can no longer control. When the Indominus approaches the aviary, the threat becomes much more real. Pterosaurs, which are flying animals confined in a huge dome, can be found here. Once more, the park has turned hazardous animals into a profitable, visible, and supervised attraction. However, the Indominus creates a new breach by shattering the structures and spreading fear. The dinosaurs make their getaway, and this time, it is impossible to conceal the disaster. Up until now, the threat was mostly found in isolated places, in the jungle, and in areas that the general public could not observe. The hazard from the flying animals is greater than that of the guests. It travels throughout the heavens. She comes down to the walkways. It encroaches on Jurassic World's tourism area. There is no longer any distinction between backstage and the show. The attack scene in the main park is a chaotic, nearly terrifying scene. Families are fleeing, workers are losing their composure, and animals are diving, grabbing, crashing, and dispersing the throng. A seemingly ideal day turns into a mass panic. This commercial environment, the screens, the stores, the eateries, becomes a hunting field. This attack is used in the movie to illustrate the actual scope of the catastrophe. The tale of Owen, Claire, Zach, and Gray is no longer the only one. Thousands of tourists discover all of a sudden that they are stranded on an island where attractions seem to drop from the sky. The park was created with families in mind, which is what makes it so horrifying. Walking areas, public squares, and rest spots become havens. In the middle of this stress, Claire and Owen come. The world around them is collapsing as they look for the kids. As a member of this structured community, Claire witnesses it turn against everyone it was meant to defend. Her failure is reflected back to her in every aspect of the setting. She was familiar with the statistics and timetables of this park, but now it's just a huge body losing its composure. One of the most horrific scenes in the movie is when Claire's aide Zara dies. After being carried away by the pterosaurs and thrown into the air, she finds herself in the pool of Mosasaurus, where the marine creature appears to devour the threat from above. The scene is horrifying because it is lengthy, magnificent, and nearly overly brutal. Above important, it demonstrates how, in Jurassic World, once the chain of command is broken, people are no longer able to determine the severity of their punishment. The park as a whole turns into a web of connected threats. A few hours before, the Mosasaurs were the centerpiece of a popular performance, but now they are an unpredictable force amid the mayhem. The identical animal, the same basin. However, the meaning has changed due to the altered context. The audience cheers when everything is under control. The same power becomes terrifying when control is lost. In the middle of this commotion, Zach and Gray eventually locate Claire. The meeting is emotional because it follows a string of remorse and anxieties. Claire gives the kids a hug, which has greater impact than many conversations. She is no longer merely the aunt who is not present. She was on the verge of losing them. And after that, her priorities start to become more obvious, relatable, and straightforward. However, the park continues to make poor choices because Hoskins sees a chance in the situation while Claire and Owen work to keep the kids safe. The Indominus is more than simply a danger to him. It is an ideal illustration of what trained animals could achieve under actual circumstances. Perhaps the raptors can outrun the monster if humans are unable to. From the beginning, Owen has rejected this notion. He's aware that his raptors are not automated devices. He has a relationship with Blue, Charlie, Delta, and Echo. Although it is still shaky, it is not predicated on complete compliance, but rather on trust, hierarchy, and habit. You run the risk of losing that link and causing another disaster if you send them against the Indominus. Hoskins, however, is adamant. Furthermore, in dire circumstances, stupid ideas might pass for brave solutions. After that, the movie gets ready for its next significant turning point. Jurassic World is about to morph trained predators into a hunting squad after turning a genetic attraction into a free monster. The idea that living things can be used as tools without ever regaining their own free will is another example of the same era. Owen examines his raptors. He's aware that they can track a trail. He is also aware that they have other options, and somewhere in the woods, the Indominus is already waiting for the opportunity to demonstrate that pack manipulation is not limited to humans. Jurassic World is unable to conceal its failure following the pterosaur onslaught. The park, which was once showcased as a contemporary masterpiece, now looks like a combat zone. The tourists are gathering, scared, hurt, and shaken. The kids are sobbing. The adults are searching the throng for a family members. The employees no longer appear to be in charge of anything. Even the screens and messages that once guided the visitor experience now look to be from a planet that has already vanished just a few hours ago. Everything in this place was set up to foster trust. So this contrast is terrible. The aisles were tidy. The timetables were exact. The names of the attractions were alluring. The most hazardous animals were included in a family-friendly bundle. These same areas now show the enormous vulnerability they were concealing. Although Claire is relieved to find Zach and Gray, nothing is resolved. Her urgency is only altered. She used to search for her nephews as if they were lost kids. She now has to keep children alive in a park where every choice the grown-ups make appears to create a new threat. The movie keeps her from collapsing. Despite her obvious remorse, she needs to take action. And she is more definitely transformed by this duty to act than by a big speech. Zach is also no longer the same. The adolescent who appeared to stroll through the park unconcerned has witnessed death firsthand. He restarted an ancient car, escaped the Indominus, shielded his brother, and traversed the remains of a history he hardly recognized. His presence was heightened by fear, even when their relationship hadn't immediately resolved. Gray has a new perspective on him. The older brother is back. The disaster makes familial ties tangible once more, which is one of the movie's most straightforward yet powerful scenes. In daily life, one can avoid a conversation, give a brusque response, hide behind a screen, or give up a moment of presence. These lengths become unfeasible on Isla Nublar. Everyone returns to what they must be for other people when they are afraid. Owen, meanwhile, views the mayhem with a detached clarity. For him, everything he had rejected from the start is confirmed by the circumstances. The park disregarded the signals, the animals, and the borders, and the same individuals are still searching for a solution that resembles a new kind of control now that the system has failed. Hoskins approaches this solution using the raptors with a risky persistence. He views Blue, Charlie, Delta, and Echo as evidence right away. According to his reasoning, these predators can be used in a military setting, as they are able to react to Owen, obey commands, and cooperate with one another. Even though the character never uses it, the phrase exploited is crucial. Hoskins is not attempting to comprehend the raptors. He looks for new methods to make money off of them, because he is aware of the boundaries of this relationship. Owen is against him. The term trained does not apply to the raptors. They have not been domesticated. Owen is acknowledged by them as a powerful individual, a well-known character, and a precarious source of authority in their society. However, their nature is never erased by this link. Blue is still able to kill while reacting to a gesture. Echo is able to switch targets and follow a trail. As long as the frame is intact, Delta and Charlie can listen to Owen, but if it breaks, nobody can say for sure what they will decide. At this point, the movie asks a more nuanced topic than one might anticipate. What distinguishes possession from a relationship? The raptors are related to Owen. Hoskins desires ownership. Furthermore, Jurassic World demonstrates how harmful this misconception is. Understanding something is not the same as loving to dominate it. One does not necessarily have a foreign will, as they are able to command for a brief period of time. With the Indominus, the park has already committed this error. Under the guise of an urgent issue, Hoskins wishes to replicate it with the raptors. He eventually feels the pressure. The teams are overburdened. Official control is eroding. Masrani has passed away, and Hoskins is increasingly making the decisions. Authority moves on the island in favor of those who suggest the most violent course of action. Aggressive certainty may appear comforting in a chaotic situation, but it is not always the best or the wisest. In the end, Owen consents to take part, but not because he agrees with Hoskins' vision. He does this because he needs to find the Indominus, and because, if he doesn't, others will exploit the raptors without any regard for their boundaries. Instead of endorsing the idea, his presence serves to lessen the harm. This subtlety is crucial. Owen is not motivated by ambition when he transforms his animals into soldiers. In a surgery that will probably kill him, he attempts to keep a minimal connection. The enthusiasm of the hunt preparation differs greatly from that of the remainder of the movie. The armed men board cars, the communications are set up, and the raptors are outfitted with cameras. Everything looks like a contemporary tactical operation. However, there are 4 predators at the core of this system, the motivations of which are unknown. From the beginning, the mixture is unstable. It seems like Blue is the most significant member of the group. In her exchanges with Owen, the movie gives her a distinct personality, a more noticeable presence, and almost emotional intelligence. She's never enough humanized to be innocuous. However, she's portrayed in the film as a creature with a hierarchy, a memory, and a relationship. The next section is more suspenseful, since Blue's decision to choose Owen will have consequences. It will be a true split if she rejects him. When night strikes on Isla Nublar, the park undergoes another transformation. Jurassic World might be concealed during the day by the light. The tropical beauty, the colors of the attractions, and the enthusiasm of the guests. The island reverts to its original state at night. The bush is pierced by the lighthouses. The communications on the radio crackle. The trees' silhouettes around the cars. The men develop with technology, but the darkness reminds them that their technology is insignificant compared to the terrain. On the racecourse, the raptors are let loose. The idea appears to be successful at first. The pack follows the scent, travels through the forest like a single creature, communicates, and advances with incredible efficiency. Conversely, the soldiers trail after, reliant on cameras mounted on creatures they don't truly comprehend. The whole paradox of the operation is captured in this picture. Although humans think they are employing the raptors, they are already reliant on them. Owen doesn't lose focus. He's aware of every stress, every sign, and every movement in his animal's behavior. He's aware that anything could tip at any time. Caught up in this never-ending flight, Claire, Zach, and Gray also see how bizarre the situation is. For a while, the animals that might have posed a threat turn into a chance to discover an even more terrifying monster. Simple categories are short-lived in Jurassic World. Predator versus predator. Creation versus creation. Restrain your instincts until the raptors locate the Indominus. The quest continues. The most eerie trap is then revealed in the movie. The Indominus does not just respond as if it were being pursued. She speaks. She makes touch with the raptors. Blue and the others' postures, sounds, and responses all shift. Humans discover too late that the Indominus shares some genetic ancestry with them. Raptor DNA is present in it. The plan is totally derailed by this news. Hoskins desired to fight a monster with a pack. However, the monster and the group share some animal reasoning. The raptors are not outside of the Indominus. She can portray herself to them as something intelligible, possibly even as an authority figure who comes more naturally than Owen. She's more powerful, larger, and nearer to them than any human will ever be. For Owen, the moment is awful. In front of him, his entire bond with the raptors is being tested. He had created a delicate, imperfect, and patient relationship. In contrast, the Indominus arrives with instantaneous biological force. She speaks to a portion of them that people do not have. The raptors abruptly turn around. In a matter of seconds, the military strategy falls apart. The soldiers end up as targets. The cars disperse. The jungle is filled with screaming. Those who believe they were delivering living weapons now understand that they have only let more predators into an already unmanageable scenario. The scene is significant because it precisely punishes Hoskins' delusion. The raptors weren't instruments. They were creatures with the ability to switch allegiances. And the Indominus demonstrates once more that she is more than just a strong animal. She manipulates people. She is aware of the hierarchy, or at the very least, she knows how to change it. She sees a pack where people perceive a protocol. Hoskins recognizes an opportunity when she sees a deployment, despite not being a part of the military realm that Hoskins imagines. The creature created to appease the public almost becomes a war planner. She's still an unpredictable animal force that was created by a human error. Claire, Owen, and the kids need to run. The threat now comes from several directions, giving the picture a unique intensity. The raptors, who had previously sided with Owen, likewise turn into hunters. But the Indominus remains. This turn of events makes the chase much more painful. Owen is running from more than just predators. He's running away from creatures he had developed a kind of trust with. This trust is suspended, but it may not be dead. For the time being, Blue and the others are following the Indominus. The center of the pack has shifted, and that is sufficient to tip the scales in the Jurassic World universe. The island appears to be getting more and more closed off as the group tries to get to a safer spot. The park structures are compromised, the roads are hazardous, communications are unclear, and the masses are still departing. The big tourism company has become a maze of survival. What was intended to direct guests has turned into a barrier for characters who are being hunted. Claire is still changing in this urgent way. She is a prisoner of protocols and business interests, no longer the lady she once was. She now moves in a direct, instinctive, and physical manner. She follows Owen, defends Zach and Gray, and makes choices when faced with peril. The movie doesn't act as though she becomes an authority in dinosaurs. It primarily demonstrates that she learns to stop hiding behind the system. Zach and Gray, on the other hand, perceive grown-ups in a different way. Claire is no longer the absent aunt inaccessible at her workplace. Owen is not just a strange dude who works with raptors. They become the two adult figures capable of guiding them in a world where institutions have failed. This impromptu family reconfiguration gives the film its emotional core, but while the group is running, Hoskins continues to perceive things through his preoccupation. Even after the failure, even after the fatalities, he still thinks in terms of military applications, potential, evidence. That is what makes him extremely frightening. He does not understand the event as a moral limit. He knows it as an imprecise test. If the strategy failed, it's not because the idea is wrong, he thinks. It's because it hasn't been perfected well enough yet. This type of character is significant in Jurassic World because it indicates that some people never learn the appropriate lesson from a calamity. Hoskins sees a chance where Owen sees a warning, where Claire begins to recognize the human ramifications of her system. Hoskins continues to see a future market. The spectator desires more power when he realizes that the island requires humility, eventually, The group goes back to the main facilities, but there isn't any security there anymore. Everything appears to be tainted by the crisis, even the Central Park, the labs, and the technological departments. The initial barrier was breached by the Indominus, followed by the aviary and Owen's trust in the raptors. The protective circles crumble one after the other. Amidst all of this, Dr. Wu is getting ready to depart the island with data and embryos. More than just immediate survival at issue with this particular information. The Indominus is not the only location affected by the Jurassic World disaster. The concept that gave rise to that creature can travel even if it dies. The genetic secrets, military aspirations, research, and samples can all endure the park's demise. It is a less spectacular, colder, but possibly more dangerous menace. Death has the power to contain a dinosaur. Conversely, a successful idea frequently finds another lab. Hoskins enters the labs and makes his motivations more apparent. He discusses possibilities, projects, and the use of the creatures as weapons. He believes that the Indominus has demonstrated what is possible when you push the envelope. His primary issue is not public fear, neither the employees' deaths. He is already considering the potential applications of genetically modified animals in the army. The movie doesn't require lengthy moral justifications when confronted with him. Everything that transpired on the island is evidence of his era. His fantasy is reflected in every scream, flight, and body lost in the bush. He doesn't hear it, though. Then, Owen, Claire, Zach, and Gray are put in a more perilous situation. There are raptors around. The Indominus is still unrestricted. The men in charge of the park are no longer in charge of anything. And now, the sole chance of survival depends on relationships that the system has always undervalued. The delicate tie between Owen and Blue, the bond between two brothers, and the rekindled bond between an aunt and her family. Because one question is still unanswered, despite the pack's comeback. Was Indominus really Blue's choice? Or is she still trying to figure out who should be pursued? This question is just as significant as a weapon in Jurassic World, because there will be more than just teeth and claws at the end of the movie. Additionally, it will manifest as a kind of acknowledgement. The hybrid monster is violent, intelligent, and strong. However, Owen might still have a past with his raptors that the Indominus doesn't fully comprehend. A delicate tale, a perilous tale, however. It's a living tale. Jurassic World displays its icy side in the labs. This site appears almost a tidy after the park's tumult. The fleeing masses, the jungle invasions, and the raptors' apparent betrayal. The lights are white. They have smooth surfaces. The screens, samples, incubators, and cages provide the illusion of a controlled, logical universe that is isolated from the outside terror. However, it is precisely this serenity that is unsettling, because this is where it all began, not in the jungle, not within the gyrosphere, not within the aviary. This is a place where life is quantified, merged, patented, altered, and then released into the world as an attractor. The park has already lost its public essence when Claire, Owen, Zach, and Gray come. However, it becomes evident in the labs that the disaster extends beyond the island. Dr. Wu is getting ready to depart. We're evacuating valuables, genetic secrets, data, and embryos. The concept behind it all can endure even if the Indominus is destroyed. The park closes, and people tell stories of their terrifying experiences. At this point, Jurassic World starts to feel more eerie than its own amazing conclusion. There are teeth in the immediate threat. Suitcases are the threat of the future. Henry Wu doesn't appear to be in a panic. Despite his anger and tension, he retains a certain level of conviction. He believes that the park's animals were never truly dinosaurs. They have always been laboratory products, reconstructions, and hybrids made to meet human expectations. Although this reality was previously present in the story, Jurassic World makes it more severe. If everything is already manufactured, then some people believe that there are no longer any true boundaries. We can make even more changes. We are able to add. We are able to optimize. We can make more sales. Then, the issue arises. When does creation stop being an accomplishment and turn into a flaw? Wu doesn't react as though this question haunts him. He reacts like a scientist who is used to being asked impossible questions and getting upset when such questions get harmful. The character is intriguing because of this. He is not the only one who bears the guilt. He exposes the guilt of the group. A more terrifying attraction was what the leaders desired. The investors were looking for something fresh. The public desired to be impressed. Potential was what the military sought. He supplied the animal. The creature in Jurassic World was never created by a single hand. It originated from a whole system. For his part, Hoskins continues to fail to perceive the disaster as a warning. He keeps talking about the research, applications, and the employment of raptors in the lab. The annoying assurance of the man who uses every setback as an opportunity to start over is still present in his voice. He believes the idea is still relevant despite the night hunt's failure, the soldiers' deaths, and witnessing the pack switch allegiances. He's the kind of human that the Jurassic saga has condemned from the start, the one who perceives an intelligent, dangerous, and unpredictable animal as a function other than a living entity. Owen has a fantastic understanding of him. Hoskins has never really looked at the raptors, therefore he hasn't learned anything. Through his ambition, he saw them. He observed their quickness, coordination, and partial compliance, but he failed to recognize the delicate bond that enabled this coordination. He did not see the required deference. The limit eluded him, and a raptor is the manifestation of this restriction. Hoskins's remarks is abruptly cut off when Delta storms into the lab. After fantasizing about using the animal as a weapon, he abruptly tries to communicate with it in an attempt to regain control. As though a few words might take the place of everything Owen had carefully constructed. It's practically hideous, since he has determined that the monster is a part of a human effort. Hoskins continues to think he can bargain with it. However, Delta does not acknowledge his power. She doesn't understand his desire to join the military. She simply acknowledges the current reality. In actuality, Hoskins is prey. His demise is more than just a fantastic penalty. It is his perspective's logical conclusion. He intended to use the raptors as weapons, but what he claimed to have instrumentalized ultimately killed him. He is not a great tragic villain because of Jurassic World. Like a man who mistook closeness for mastery, he makes him vanish. The group had to run away once more after this attack. But for Owen, the escape now has a more intimate significance. The raptors are not far away. Although the pack and the Indominus are connected, this relationship must not be unbreakable. Above all, Blue's presence is still unclear. She pursued the hybrid monster, but her relationship with Owen was not immediately forgotten. And that's when the movie builds up its real emotional pivotal moment. Owen cannot use force to defeat the Indominus. He can't physically compete with her. He can't fix the issue by shooting. However, he can still attempt to communicate with the remnants of his relationship with his raptors, not in lofty terms, not with an unachievable domestication, with a gesture, a stance, an acknowledgement. There is a great deal of tension when Owen confronts Blue and the others, since it's not just about the potential attack. It is based on a trust issue. The raptors move forward, quick and fearsome, poised to attack. People freeze. Zack and Gray are aware that the animals they are up against may kill them in a matter of seconds. Claire believes that this is where it may all end. Conversely, Owen decides not to act in an antagonistic manner. He sets down his firearm. This is an important gesture. Owen tries the opposite in a movie full with walls, cages, weapons, sensors, and control systems. He rejects the appearance of dominance. He shows his weakness. Through his demeanor, he reminds Blue that they shared a different kind of connection. It is not magical. The order isn't ideal. In the midst of the pandemonium, it's a dangerous effort at a connection. Blue pauses, and in this hesitancy, Jurassic World reclaims some of the saga's perilous wonder. The creature is not reduced to a monstrous machine. She considers, acknowledges, and makes a decision. It's crucial to remember that her decision does not define her as human. She is still a raptor. However, the movie offers her a free will. The Indominus can have an impact on her, but she won't be totally consumed by it. Then the alternative authority, the Indominus, shows up. Something seems to be slipping away from her. She no longer has complete control over the pack she had transformed. A human named Owen has revived a narrative that she finds incomprehensible. The Indominus possesses predatory intelligence, hybrid power, and genetic strength. However, she was not in a relationship as a child. All she knew was loneliness, the cage, manipulation, and perverted instinct when blue is present. This distinction is apparent. The Indominus has the power to rule. You can identify Owen. Furthermore, it's not the same thing. The altercation breaks out. The raptors now attack the Indominus as a pack that has selected a prey other than as human tools. In this battle, Charlie, Delta, and Echo suffer greatly. In terms of size, power, and ferocity, the Indominus is superior to them. This creature was meant to be extravagant, and every attack serves as a reminder of that. Hits, strikes, throws, and crushes are all necessary. Despite their speed and intelligence, the raptors encounter an anomaly that is intended to exceed expectations. The raptors' deaths give the battle an unanticipated seriousness. The movie gave these animals presence, hierarchy, and dynamics when they may have remained as secondary dangers. The impression that the hybrid monster destroys more than just humans is strengthened by witnessing them fall before the Indominus. Additionally, it undermines the park's already precarious wildlife balance. For a brief period, it appears as though Blue is also dead after being flung severely. It's a silent jolt for Owen. The group's survival comes first, therefore he can't stop for too long. However, the seeming loss of Blue signifies the end of an illusion. A creature born of human excess cannot be completely protected by even the most patient relationship. At that point, Claire understands that the group is too weak to stop the Indominus. We have vanquished the raptors. The human teams have not succeeded. Conventional weaponry were insufficient. The park is completely destroyed. The sole remaining option is to use an older, more recognizable, and unadulterated force to confront the hybrid. And Claire comes up with this concept. She examines the amenities, the cages, and the map. She's aware that there is still a monster on the island that can resist the Indominus. Since the first Jurassic Park, this creature has carried an almost legendary force. While not being created to appease a jaded public, Tyrannosaurus Rex. This decision is symbolic as well as narrative. Claire, who at first believed in protocol, now consents to let go of one threat in order to fight another. However, there is a big difference. She doesn't do it for financial gain, reputation, or creativity. She acts in this way because all of her past poor choices have limited the possibilities to a kind of instinct-driven anarchy. The T in the human sense. Rex is not a rescuer. He's not there out of compassion to keep the guests safe. He comes because we let him in, because he follows his own nature, and because he is drawn into the battle. However, that is sufficient according to Jurassic World reasoning, recalling a power that was meant to be, changed into an attraction, but never ceased to be. Sovereign is sometimes necessary to stop a constructed monstrosity. Then Claire bolts in the direction of the T-Rex enclosure. One of the most significant turning points in her development was this run. She carried a phone, planner, heels, and poise as she strolled into the park at the start of the movie. A living legend that she recently set free is pursuing her as she runs through the night with a torch in her hand. If the image were described objectively, it would be almost ridiculous, but in the movie, it works because it signifies a radical departure from her previous self. Claire has given up trying to run the park from her office. She directs the threat with her own body. She accepts the danger. She entices the T back to Main Street, where Owen and the kids are still in danger from the Indominus. Additionally, Jurassic World immediately brings back memories of the entire drama when the door opens and the enormous silhouette of the Tyrannosaurus advances. The spectator sees more than just another dinosaur. He perceives the reappearance of a fundamental presence. The T-Rex is magnificent, despite being aged and marked by time. He carries the legacy of the previous movie, a mixture of magnificence and dread. This creature has held an odd position since Jurassic Park, a queen, a cause of chaos, a threat, and occasionally even a balance figure. She never truly supports people. She is defending her own authority, and that's exactly what makes her essential. The new monster, on the other hand, is represented by the Indominus, which is hybrid, optimized, and engineered to outperform. The T-Rex is a metaphor for the ancient monarch, flawed, biological, vicious, yet comprehensible in its majesty. It is more than simply a dinosaur fight, as the two animals square off. Two of the saga's eras are engaged in combat. The beast that emerged from the arms race is on one side. Conversely, the overbidding sought to supplant the mythology. And all around them, Main Street turns into the last arena of a park that ruined itself by attempting to sell more wonders. There is no longer a park on Main Street. It's an arena. The storefronts, eateries, neon signs, and tourist decor, all intended to reassure guests, become the backdrop for an uncontrollable fight. A few hours prior, this location sold meals, souvenirs, cuddly animals, pictures, and pieces of prehistoric dreams that were wrapped for families. Two enormous beasts now stand beneath the commercial center of Jurassic World, and it's clear from this shift in scale, dinosaurs were to be reduced to attractions in the park. They return to their actual dimension at the end of the movie. Time seems to shorten as a Tyrannosaurus Rex approaches Main Street. He's more than an animal that has been let out of a cage. He's a living example. His arrival awakens the entire saga's past, the sense of awe and terror that Jurassic Park left in the minds of moviegoers. The T-Rex is not a human hero. He's unaware of the moral implications. He's unaware that he is up against a hybrid creature created by contemporary arrogance. He arrives as a result of being drawn in, agitated, and thrust into a confrontational area. However, the symbol itself is enormous. The Indominus Rex stands for the next level of conceit when confronted with it. It originated from an assembly rather than a rediscovered past. She was envisioned as a more powerful, contemporary, and commercially viable attraction. She believes that natural wonder is no longer sufficient. It needs to be made better. Boost the intensity to react to an audience that is no longer taken aback by miracles. Create a predator that doesn't exist. Frontal brutality starts the fight. The T-Rex strikes, but the Indominus is younger, quicker, and more aggressive. She accepts the blow and reacts with even more savagery. You can tell right away that the former king is not in a good position. This elevates the situation beyond a straightforward act of sentimental retaliation. The movie doesn't claim that the magnificence of the past always prevails. Conversely, it indicates that it faces danger from the creature of excess. The T-Rex is strong, yet he has a mark. Despite being artificial, the Indominus is incredibly powerful. Every confrontation between them is like a collision between two monster movie images. The weighty, palpable, legendary, almost regal presence on one side. A hybrid beast, on the other hand, is made to push limits, combine skills, and astonish by excess. The theme that permeates the entire movie is actually staged in Jurassic World. What happens when you create something to replace what was previously extraordinary? Because the solution is not straightforward. Rex is harmed. He appears overpowered, stumbles, and retreats. He is occasionally thrown, bitten, and subjugated by the Indominus. Owen, Claire, Zach, and Gray are small in the midst of the devastation caused by the war on Main Street. They rely on forces that are entirely beyond of their control to survive. They can flee, hide, and defend themselves, but they are no longer in charge of the situation compared to the start of the movie. It is a total reversal. The dinosaurs were initially arranged by humans behind timetables, enclosures, and tour schedules. Humans are now confined to the periphery and must wait for the animals to work out a human-caused crisis among themselves. One of the key themes of the story is revisited in this film. Although humans can cause chaos, they are not always able to decide how it will be resolved. When the T-Rex is on the verge of defeat, and the Indominus appears to be winning the battle, this hostile, solitary, and artificial creature appears ready to take the place of the previous emblem. It would be the triumph of the logic of the park. The new monster, larger, more powerful, and more lucrative, would destroy the symbol it was supposed to exceed. However, Blue has returned. Everything is altered by his homecoming. In the battle, Blue is more than just reinforcement. She is an indication that the relationship with Owen is still intact. She was hurt, discarded, and taken out of the fight, yet she reappears at the critical juncture. Additionally, Blue returns voluntarily, in contrast to the Indominus, who attempted to impose his authority on the pack through physical superiority and biological force. The movie makes it apparent that Blue sees a potential alliance against the creature that wiped out its own group. But it does not turn this decision into a human sentiment, because Blue is smaller than the two giants. Her intervention has an even greater effect. She lacks the T's mass, Rex. She is unable to beat Indominus by herself. However, her quickness, dexterity, accurate biting, and diversion help the former king claim the upper hand. The battle then turns into an improbable coalition as the raptor and the ancient, well-known predator join forces with Owen to oppose the manipulation-born hybrid. This partnership should not be interpreted as a contented domestication. The T-Rex and Blue do not turn into human protectors. They don't battle to correct Claire's errors or defend the park. In their own animal world, the Indominus poses a threat, which is why they fight. Because of this, the scene is more plausible in the context of Jurassic World. Victories are not commanded by humans. They see instincts coming together. At that point, the Indominus starts to lose its advantage. The T-Rex pushes it away. Blue launches a flanking attack. The windows blow up. The decorations fall, and Main Street is being devastated beneath their bodies as the strikes continue. The animals that the park had intended to display seem to be judging the entire establishment. Every effect appears to be an indictment of the system. This is what occurs when the impractical is made into a consumer good. Fearful, Claire observes, but she also recognizes that the solution she set off is no longer her own. She let go of the T.S. Rex. However, the scenario is currently uncontrollable by humans. Her path is finished with this knowledge. At first, Claire was a lady who valued complete control. The harsher reality that some forces can only be revered and never owned ultimately confronts her. Owen also gives Blue a tense aspect. He is aware that his relationship with her is still strong, but he also understands that it cannot be used as a leash. After deciding to fight, Blue will make her own decisions. The movie avoids turning the monster into a mascot in this subtle way. The hero's pet is not Blue. She is a raptor who senses a connection at a particular time. The battle advances in the direction of the Mosasaurus pool. At the edge of the scene, this area, which was already important earlier in the movie, waits like an open mouth. And this is where Jurassic World deftly connects a number of previously mentioned ideas. At first, the Mosasaurus were showcased as a magnificent attraction, a massive animal that surfaced from the sea to the audience's cheers. Then, in the midst of the pterosaur pandemonium, it had swallowed a threat, serving as a reminder that the spectacle may quickly devolve into horror. Ultimately, it becomes the last force that totally defies human reason. The Indominus is forced to the brink. She continues to struggle. She hits, bites, and won't give up. She's still terrifying even when cornered. She is the creature made to endure, rule, and amaze. However, the chain of all the powers, she has awakened the T's too strong for her strength and wisdom. Rex, Blue, the landscape, and lastly, the sea monster that the park had transformed into a display. The Mosasaurs thereafter emerged. The scale shifts once more in an instant. Like a natural trap, the basin opens. The Indominus is captured by the enormous jaw and pulled into the sea. The hybrid entity vanishes, engulfed by an even more gigantic, quieter, and older force. There isn't a big speech, no execution of humans, no victory in technology. A creature that the park believed it could. Likewise, control sweeps away the monster spawned by commercial competition. The conclusion is both stunning and incredibly ironic. In order to outperform the current dinosaurs, Jurassic World built the Indominus. It was ultimately destroyed by an unanticipated alliance of species that humanity had already underestimated, not by a more recent development. The park failed to correct its error. It was severely corrected by the living. The silence that ensues after the Indominus vanishes has a distinct weight. No one can truly claim an easy win, but the war is ended. Main Street has been demolished. People have passed away. The park has been condemned. The creatures who survive do not reappear as attractions. Additionally, the individuals are aware that what they have just gone through cannot be classified as an accident. The T-Blue and Rex are facing each other. This is a crucial moment. The violence might be carried out by the two predators. They might take turns facing each other. However, after exchanging glances and possibly realizing that they are also survivors of the same catastrophe, they part ways. Without going into too much detail, the movie lets this interaction breathe. The T-Rex retreats. Blue gives Owen a glance. Blue and Owen exchange a quick but intense glance. It does not imply that everything has been resolved. It does not imply that Blue is obediently going back to him. Conversely, it confirms their relationship's boundaries. Blue picked him over the Indominus after recognizing him, but she is still free. She doesn't return to a cage. She walks away. On one of the movie's most fair endings is this exit. She is not stopped by Owen, because he has to acknowledge that respect is not about ownership. If he truly understood what he was saying from the start. Owen does not own Blue. She's not a part of the park. She's not a part of a firm, a military program, Wu, or Hoskins. Despite its potential for harm, it is a part of its own nature. The T-Rex, however, eventually ascends to a commanding position above the devastated park. This picture might appear to be entirely iconic, almost like it was created with fans in mind. However, it also has a distinct symbolic purpose. A region that people had covered with stores, fences, and emblems is visually reclaimed by the old ruler. It doesn't say that nature is pleasant in the last roar. It claims that it is still present and larger than the systems designed to take use of it. The park was defeated. The dinosaurs made it out alive. Once more, people depart the island with less certainty than when they first came. Claire views the ending as more than just the conclusion of a catastrophe. Her prior professional persona has completely collapsed. She witnessed her park turn into a trap. She witnessed her choices, or at least the system she was a part of, endangering her nephews. She witnessed the star creature of the company murder, control, and destroy. She also realized that efficiency without morality turn into complicity. The conclusion validates Owen's innate mistrust. He was correct to oppose using raptors as weapons. He was correct when he stated that animals are not completely under control. However, he also learns that in a culture fixated on dominance, the relationship, despite its fragility, can be valuable. Not everyone was saved by his relationship with Blue. The disaster was not averted by it, but when physical force was insufficient, it became important. Conversely, Zack and Gray emerged from the encounter changed. They had come as two brothers divided by boredom, age, and conflict within the family. They depart with a common survival memory. It is not a miracle cure for their parents' divorce or all of their family's problems. However, the experience provided them a certainty. They can unite when things get risky. The Indominus's demise is not the conclusion of the movie. There are multiple liberations at the conclusion. Claire lets go of some of her aloofness. Owen breaks free from the delusion that he could maintain a close relationship with Blue. Zack lets go of his apathy. Gray breaks free from the foolish notion that the amazing is always secure. For their part, The dinosaurs break out from the role that humans had predetermined for them once more. However, there is still a worrying behind this seeming answer, due to Wu's disappearance. Since the information is still available, because the concept of the Indominus might not have perished along with it. Additionally, every human disaster in the Jurassic universe leaves behind someone who thinks they can start over more intelligently than the others. This ominous promise keeps Jurassic World from being a straightforward closed adventure. The monster perishes, the park collapses, and the family gets back together. But the outside world hasn't necessarily learnt the lesson. The island has demonstrated the outcome. It's unclear if people who live far from the island will take the warning seriously. Due to the possibility of Isla Nublar being devoid of tourists. It is possible for the lights to go out. The doors might stay open. However, the story will never truly end as long as someone views a live thing before a product. Following the tease roar, there's mostly silence. Rex, there's an odd quiet since Jurassic World hasn't truly calmed down. The island wears the scars of an impossible day everywhere. The park is wrecked, the guests are still frightened, and the evacuation teams must handle a massive problem. However, with Main Street's rage, the Indominus being pulled into the water, and Blue and the T's erratic cooperation, in order to show us the effects of the disaster on the faces, the movie lets the pressure drop. The actual significance of the Jurassic story is frequently revealed during these times. The breathtaking vistas undoubtedly leave a lasting impression. The obvious potential is represented by the dinosaurs, attacks, chases, cries, and roars. But what's left over is something other. The weariness of the survivors, the human guilt of having to start over, and that question that keeps coming up in different forms. Before we believe the warning, how many times must we see it? At last, Zach and Gray are reunited with their parents. Although the moment is straightforward and almost anticipated, it has a lot of emotional significance. With the ferocity of someone who has seen the worst, their mother clings to them. The distressed father is also present. The early family conflicts are viewed in a larger context rather than miraculously going away. Divorce used to be Gray's biggest worry, the personal rift that jeopardized her ideal of the family. This dread is not eliminated after Isla Nublar, but it coexists with a more profound certainty. They are alive, united, and they now understand that presence is more important than stability. This particular aspect is crucial because Jurassic World might have prioritized show over family. However, the movie had shown Zach and Gray as two young children torn between domestic fragility, wonder, and distance. After that, their trip across the park turns into both an emotional and a survival test. Age, attitudes, and unspoken remarks divide them when they arrive. No one else can ever fully comprehend the experience that binds them together as they depart. Zach had to act, so he transformed. He had to listen to Gray, run with him, defend him, and make decisions with him. The wreckage of the former tourist center, the jungle, and the Indominus were all too much for his apathetic adolescent mask. When faced with actual danger, what at first appeared to be merely youthful indifference proved brittle, and Zach discovered a kind of accountability when everything fell apart. Conversely, Gray lost his innocence, but not necessarily his passion for dinosaurs. This is a crucial subtlety. The movie doesn't claim that wonder was foolish. It asserts that all devoid of reverence is powerless. Gray had good reason to be enthralled with these animals. He was correct to believe that there was more to their existence than just human rituals. He learns that just because a park has glass, branding, and instructions all around it does not make excellence harmless. As a result, his child's gaze is wounded, but not mocked. And maybe this is what brings Jurassic World closer to the core of the story. Dinosaurs must simultaneously inspire awe and terror. The miracle is lost if we merely hold on to the fear. We forget the risk if we simply preserve the marvel. Wanting to market one without truly embracing the other was the park's worst error. For her part, Claire is in a completely different state than she was at the start. She is no longer the flawless leader with a strict timetable that moves through the hallways. She has survived. She opened the tea, rushed, screamed, and took chances. Rex Daw witnessed the Indominus's demise and gave her nephews a hug, nearly losing them. Because her story arc depends on a noticeable, occasionally accentuated metamorphosis, it is frequently addressed. Fundamentally, though, it conveys a clear message. Claire learns to view life in a different way than via professional distance. She calls the dinosaurs assets at first. She discusses public satisfaction, sponsors, and attendance. Her schedule appears more pressing than their presence, so she assigns her nephews. Ultimately, she realizes that connections cannot be replaced by systems, and that when reality overwhelms, numbers cannot shield anyone. She is not flawless despite this metamorphosis. She becomes conscious of it. Even while consciousness always arrives too late in the Jurassic universe, it is nonetheless important. Owen is an example of a different kind of instruction. He didn't have to learn that dinosaurs were harmful. Unlike Claire, he was aware of it. He said it again. With the raptors, he experienced it daily. However, his path is dynamic. Even the most respectful partnership does not guarantee control, and he must acknowledge this as well. Blue saw it, but Blue is no longer there. For some time, the raptors pursued the Indominus. The fragility of the relationship is not eliminated by the final alliance. Because of this, Owen isn't just the hero who understands everything. He may have a deeper understanding than others, but he doesn't have the perfect answer. His wisdom is one of humility rather than dominance. And that's just what the park lacks. Owen is aware that people bargain, react, flee, and surprise one another. He is aware that there is seldom a clear line between risk and trust. He would be mistaken to think that he has a right of possession because of his regard. Ultimately, though, he does not retain Blue. This quiet decision is nearly as important as his valiant deeds. Thus, one of the most significant scenes in the movie is Blue's departure. She leaves to create an odd family with Owen. She doesn't turn into a cozy representation of effective domestication. At a world where her freedom is likewise at danger, she returns to it. The movie compels us to acknowledge this paradox. Blue can be charming without being subdued, despite not being one of the heroes. She is able to assist them. She doesn't have to stop being a predator in order to identify Owen. This is where Jurassic World discovers a more nuanced concept than its popularity sometimes suggests. Although the film plays with the enjoyment of spectacle, its profound message warns against it. It presents enormous scenes to the spectator while narrating the tale of a park that perishes in an attempt to turn the enormous into repeating consumption. Before the tea, he gives us a thrill, Rex, Blue, and the Mosasaurus, but he reminds us that this excitement is not harmless in the story's setting. Visitors to the park expected to be amazed. We also do. The movie is well aware that it draws us in with the same allure that its park offers visitors. One of the most intriguing features of Jurassic World is this mirroring. The actual audience was likewise anticipating the franchise's long-awaited comeback. He desired to witness dinosaurs once more with greater grandeur, spectacle, and excitement. The movie both fulfills and challenges this assumption. In the narrative, the Indominus Rex is more than just a monster. Additionally, when a viewer already knows the tea, it serves as a metaphor for the excesses of contemporary sequels. What should be created to surprise the Rex, the raptors, and the ancient disasters once more? The park's response is to build a larger monster. The movie's answer is less clear. Make this monster, then demonstrate the fallacy of this reasoning. For this reason, the Indominus and the tea engaged in a final duel. Rex does more than just provide fan service. Indeed, the movie aims to arouse nostalgia. Indeed, it makes use of the tea's iconic power. Rex, indeed, it provides the viewer with a vivid and stunning clash. However, the former king's return serves as a symbolic correction in the narrative. What the park thought it could surpass defeats the monster designed to replace the wonder. Due to its isolation from forces it does not completely comprehend, the Indominus perishes. Despite her extraordinary intelligence, she doesn't feel like she belongs. She doesn't have a bond with the raptors, but she can converse with them. She is capable of dominating, yet she is unable to engender enduring allegiance, despite her ability to kill, trick, disguise herself, rip out her implant, and control a pack. She is still the result of a void. Perhaps her most terrible quality is this emptiness. The Indominus is not shown in the movie as an innocent victim to be pitied. She is destructive, scary, and murderous. However, he demonstrates to us that her monstrosity is a fabrication. She didn't ask to be here. She did not decide to be put together in order to meet attendance requirements. She didn't decide to grow up alone. Because her designers solely considered her in terms of effect, she turns into their nightmare. This concept gives the disaster a deeper moral meaning. Humans are not punished for dreaming in Jurassic World. Because they turn their dream into a commodity, they are penalized. Even if John Hammond was already arrogant in the previous movie, his dream still had a youthful, almost innocent quality. When branding, sponsorship, required novelty, and continuous profitability are taken into consideration, Jurassic World demonstrates what that dream turns into. It's cooler, because it's more contemporary. The park is more than just a location. It's a fantastic industry. Additionally, the industry has a challenge that nature does not. It must constantly promote the next big thing. One Brachiosaurus is plenty. A T for a generation, Rex is sufficient. However, what should be done when the public demands even more? We mingle. We make things up. We create. We'll give you additional teeth. One day, the hand that made the promise is bitten by it. This same paradox underpins the entire park, including the control room, labs, VIP sections, water attractions, gyrosphere, and aviary. Provide a closeness to danger, while making sure it is eliminated. Let guests experience the excitement, but never the fallout, to convince you that you can purchase the wild experience debt-free. But Jurassic World's response is harsh. Debt is a constant at varying degrees. The characters settle this loan. The guests pay it with fear. Sometimes the workers have to pay for it with their lives. Claire bears the guilt for it. Owen gives her his pack as payment. Zach and Gray lose their innocence as tourists as a result. Even Masrani, who aspired to be great, lost his life as a result of the disconnect between responsibility and goal. Conversely, Henry Wu doesn't make much money on the island. It's also purposefully unnerving. Because of his departure, the obligation remains unpaid. The movie opens the door to a more serious danger. Although monsters can perish, the knowledge that creates them endures. It is possible to evacuate laboratories. Ambitions are able to rename themselves. What the park can no longer conceal can be recovered by the military. After that, the threat shifts into a new phase that is less tourism and more global, political, and industrial. In addition to setting the stage for the saga's future, this introduction enhances Jurassic World's conclusion, because the issue is not entirely eliminated if the park collapses. Although the location has failed, the reasoning behind it can be revived somewhere else. That's precisely why the last impression is more unnerving than a straightforward triumphant conclusion. The survivors depart from Isla Nublar, however. The island, its ruins, its wild animals, its shattered fences, its remnants of blood and fire remains behind them. The abandoned shops, the quiet pools, the vacant hotels, the stalled cars, the turned-off screens, and the desolate attractions may all be imagined. What was intended to greet large crowds turns into a proud monument. And elsewhere, the dinosaurs no longer wait for the showtimes on this once wilder island. This picture is striking, since it totally undermines the park's concept. The goal of Jurassic World was to arrange the past for the present. Ultimately, the living past endures as the human present retreats. Since these dinosaurs are the product of human activity, the island is not restored to its natural state. At least it avoids the farce of control, though. It turns into an unpredictable, perilous area that is independent in its own right. After all of that, Claire and Owen have a last, calmer relationship. The movie implies that they are no longer stuck in their initial resistance, or at the very least, that they may advance together. Their differences at first seemed almost comical. He was the hands-on man, while she was the frigid manager. Ultimately, both gained knowledge from the other. Claire discovered that offices disregard the reality imposed by the field. Owen realized that being responsible involves more than just doing the right thing. It also involves helping people who find out too late. There is no need to go into too much detail about their relationship. It primarily demonstrates how mutual recognition can develop as a result of survival. Together, they experience the end of a world. A straightforward future is not guaranteed by this. However, this potential for a human connection is important. In a movie where pride and distance have severed so many ties, the conclusion's overarching significance comes next. Jurassic World says more than just, don't make dinosaurs. Humans have never paid attention to what the saga has previously claimed. Instead, this movie warns against the time when the amazing turns into a routine, because that's when pride resurfaces in a more harmful form. Humans are initially captivated. They eventually grow accustomed to it. They then want more, and in their pursuit of more, they lose sight of the original reason for their fascination. This forgetfulness is the exact source of the Indominus. She is the product of an audience that has lost the ability to be impressed. She is the product of an organization that has lost its sense of decency. She is a product of science that has lost the ability to refuse. Because of this, even though her death was spectacular, it was insufficient to render the world blameless. Knowing how to kill the beast is not the only question. Why we had to make it is the true question. We must return to the unique anticipation that's surrounding the movie in order to comprehend why Jurassic World had such an impact on the audience in 2015. The Jurassic saga was not your typical franchise. A whole generation's perception of dinosaurs in movies was altered by Jurassic Park. Fear, amazement, science fiction, family adventure, and technological nightmare were all combined into an almost flawless form. From then on, every new movie had a very heavy burden. Simply showing dinosaurs was insufficient. It was essential to recreate an emotion. As a result, Jurassic World comes under tremendous strain. The fans wanted more than just a follow-up. He desired to go back to Isla Nublar. He desired the park's opening. He wanted to see what John Hammond's vision would have been like if thousands of people had actually entered through the gates. And in that regard, the movie perfectly captures the audience's yearning. Jurassic World's central concept, which instantly distinguishes it, is straightforward but effective. This time, the park succeeds. For many years, the majority of the earlier movies featured abandoned places, dangerous voyages, banned islands, and failed undertakings. What Jurassic World has to offer is the ultimate realization of the commercial dream. The dinosaurs are incorporated into a leisure economy, families visit, and the attractions operate. It's a great concept because it gives the audience what they've always wanted and then transforms that desire into criticism. The movie is aware of our desire to visit this park. It is aware that we want to ride the gyrosphere, ride the monorail, view the Mosasaurus, stroll down Main Street, and hear the happy screams of kids in front of animals that vanished millions of years ago. Jurassic World does not condemn us for this ambition right away. It enables us to experience it. He allows us to be impressed. The hidden cost of this admiration is then gradually revealed to us. The movie strikes the core of the whole story at that point. Making dinosaurs is never the only issue. The idea that possession is inherently granted by creation is problematic. After reviving an old life, humans alter it, give it a name, restrict it, sell it, and display it. They are shocked when this life declines to play the function that has been assigned to it. This reasoning gets much more contemporary in Jurassic World. The park is no longer the nearly handmade fantasy of a prehistoric billionaire. It is an international business that is organized, flexible, supported, and driven by innovation. These days, dinosaurs are more than simply scientific wonders. They are incorporated into a plan for the brand. They need to draw in hold on to, surprise, and make money. And that's exactly why the Indominus Rex is so significant. She is the ideal monster for that time period. She is more than just powerful. She is intended to be marketable. It was created in response to market research. It originates from the park's fictional audience's boredom with species that should still inspire sacred or in any real world. Although this detail is nearly ridiculous, it is true that people can become accustomed to anything, including miracles. Thus, the park produces something fresh. Larger, more brutal. More impressive, more unattainable. However, in an attempt to transcend, it produces a creature that has no natural location, no connection, and no boundaries. The Indominus turns into the tangible manifestation of an industry that conflates value with intensity. Because it takes the place of the T, it is not noteworthy. Rex, she can't replace it, which makes her memorable. It demonstrates that an overbid may result in a surprise, but not always a legend. This explains why many viewers find the ending to be so powerful. The T's return, the final bite of the Mosasaurus, Blue's intervention, and the Rex all play on both the symbolic repair and the pure enjoyment of the movie. The old world is allowed to react to the man-made monster in the movie. It allows the creatures the park believed it could control to wipe off the creature that sprang from its conceit. Naturally, Jurassic World is not a perfect movie. A few supporting characters are still straightforward. Some human choices are purposefully careless in order to hasten the disaster. The disproportionate savagery of Zara's death has been widely reported. Claire's treatment may seem forced given her obvious transition from office worker to field survivor. Furthermore, as is frequently the case in the tale, the scientific reasoning of the Indominus is more comparable to adventure film than to biological rigor. However, these restrictions do not stop the movie from accomplishing its primary goal, which is to rekindle interest. Jurassic World is aware that a late sequel needs to accomplish two goals simultaneously. In addition to honoring the legacy of the original movie, it must present a fresh image that is compelling enough to stand alone. This impression is given by the open park. This image is provided by the gyrosphere. This photograph is provided by the Mosasaurus. This photograph is provided by the Indominus. This image is given by Blue. Even though it is a really magnificent fight, the audience is given an instantly identifiable cinematic scene. The film's connection to nostalgia is another source of its power. His passion for Jurassic Park is evident. The T, the former visitor center, the visual illusions, the Rex, and the island's memory all speak directly to viewers who grew up with the tale. However, the movie does more than just depict memories as holy items. It puts them in a narrative where the disregarded past comes back to condemn the present. There's more to the former tourist center than meets the eye. It's in ruins. Furthermore, a ruin is never neutral. This indicates that something has already taken place. A warning has already been given to someone. This memory was covered by the new park, which was constructed as though failure might be used as decor. However, the island hasn't forgotten anything. Neither did the audience. The location of the T has a special resonance because of this concept, Rex. It was both majesty and dread in the first movie. He becomes practically a sovereign memory in Jurassic World, an ageless force that won't be supplanted by the newest creation. He is not made lovely in the movie. He doesn't become a moral hero as a result. He merely puts him at the pinnacle of a made-up globe that the Indominus sought to subjugate. Conversely, Blue allows the narrative to take a new turn. The raptors are no longer just smart nightmares in halls and kitchens with her. They develop into creatures that can have hazardous relationships. This concept is dangerous because it can easily become overly domesticated. However, Jurassic World at least preserves a crucial tension. Blue is still free even if she can identify Owen. She doesn't belong, yet she can help. The moral resolution of the movie depends on this independence. The illusion of possession is condemned in Jurassic World. Therefore, it would have been paradoxical to conclude by ensnaring Blue in an overly straightforward connection. His departure serves as a reminder that respect for life starts. Where the need to keep things private stops, the movie also raises more general questions about Henry Wu. This decision keeps the conclusion from being finalized. Although the Indominus is no longer with us, the science that enabled it still exists. The park survives the study, the embryos, and the military aspirations. It's a very Jurassic ending. Even after witnessing the horror, some people continue to remove the means by which they can replicate it. As a result, the disaster becomes an incident rather than a conclusive lesson. And that could be Jurassic World's saddest moment. The movie depicts a catastrophe that should be impossible to overlook. A devastated park, thousands of witnesses, fatalities, pictures, proof, and an uncontrollable hybrid monstrosity. However, it's already clear that the world will figure out a way to make sense of, bounce back from, and change the issue. When a park shuts, scientific and military capital does not just vanish. The melancholy aspect of the story stems from the enduring nature of human error. Every movie appears to be saying, this time, they will understand. Every time, someone realizes it too late, while someone else is already planning the next offense. By altering the false angle, Jurassic World thereby contributes to the heritage of Jurassic Park. The first movie talked about building a park before realizing the life we brought back. This one discusses industrial pride, taking that miracle, making it public, making it a routine, and then producing a monster because the routine isn't thrilling enough. It makes sense in terms of evolution, and because of that, the movie is more engaging than a straightforward replica. It adapts the critique to a time of brands, franchises, ongoing renewal, and ever larger spectacles, while adhering to the disaster's framework. In addition to dinosaurs, Jurassic World explores our own desire for novelty. Without pausing to amuse us, it inquires as to how we differ from park visitors. We would like to see the Indominus as well. We also want to be taken by surprise. Sometimes we look at the T2 Rex and pose the question, what can we invent that is more impressive? In response, the movie uses furious sarcasm to show that creating something more stunning does not equate to creating something better. There are times when the strength of what was already there cannot be replaced by excess. Sometimes we forget how to stare at the wonder, which causes it to perish in our sight. Ultimately, Isla Nublar lingers like a scar behind the survivors. The park is no longer a pipe dream. It's once more a banned area, but not in the same way. The island once held the key to an incomplete project. It now displays the ruins of a show that was finished and then demolished. This time, humanity cannot claim ignorance, which makes it more serious. She was aware. The narrative belonged to her. The proof was in her possession. The warnings were with her, and still she did it once more. That is the source of Jurassic World's greatest power. There is a very straightforward allegation hidden beneath the enormous amusement, the chases, the attacks, the roars, and the pictures meant to impress. The true threat is not just the dinosaur that breaks the cage. The person who constructs a cage with the knowledge that it will eventually be insufficient is the true threat. Gray, Zach, Owen, and Claire all survive, but they are not innocent. The sinister aspect of the dream has been shown to them. They now understand that when amazement is governed by those who prioritize profit, it may turn into a trap. They are aware that dinosaurs are not products, weapons, attractions, or fictional characters from a brochure. They are the unthinkable outcome of a scientific mistake that became a worldwide spectacle. For their part, the audience departs with conflicting emotions. On the one hand, the joy of seeing a fantastic adventure movie that is abundant, breathtaking, and full of iconic shots. However, a recurring concern is whether or not we would purchase a ticket if this world truly existed. This paradox is what makes Jurassic World come to life. It makes us desire to visit the park, while cautioning against it. He uses the power of spectacle to denounce excess. While discussing the perils of commercial resurrection, he revives a saga. In essence, the Jurassic universe is a natural fit for this tension. An amazing universe. An unattainable planet. A world that people admire. take advantage of, lose, and then attempt to recapture. The final roar of the T-Rex does more than simply put an end to a fight. It evokes a sense of sovereignty. He reminds us that a park plan alone does not make some dreams safer. He reminds us that nature always has a component that eludes us, even when man reconstructs it. This enormous, straightforward, nearly archaic lesson concludes Jurassic World. You can name the monsters, sell tickets, construct walls, unlock the doors, change the DNA, guarantee safety, and illuminate the night with thousands of neon lights. However, the park as a whole realizes that it was only a front as the living decide to take back their spot.